Good afternoon, South Africa and Zimbabwe. To our South African audience, happy Heritage Day. We know you're all at home relaxing and joining our webinar. If you are at home and you aren't signed up, we will be sharing you this recording with you all, so don't stress. There's some real good information that we're going to be presenting to you today. We've got an interesting university and an interesting presentation for you. It's one of our key partners. It's the University of South Wales, and it's a big university, but you're going to be quite surprised at the feel, not just in terms of the cost, but the lifestyle and the beauty of being around such a prestigious university as well. Without further ado, we've got Joe Pelly, who's the International Development Manager. He works on a day-to-day basis with all of our team. He's always available and you're in safe hands with him as well. So please put your questions in the chat box or the Q&A section, and we'll get to it just at the end of the presentation as well. And Joe, the screen's yours and good luck.
Thank you, George. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you for everyone who's attending this session today. It's good to be with you all, and although I hope to see many of you in person next year when we're able to travel again to across Africa, and specifically Zimbabwe, South Africa, two of my favorite countries. I'm just going to share my screen now just to get started. Okay, so here we go. My name is Joe Paley, International Development Manager for University of South Wales. I work across all of Africa. Here's my email address and here's my WhatsApp. So after the conversation today, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me. But in first instance, you've got Global Education. They're the biggest and the best agent across Southern Africa. We've worked with them for years. I can't tell you how good they are to work with and how important it is to work with a recruitment agency like Global, because it makes the whole process so much easier, so much easier. But anyway, so today what I'm going to go through is a few steps. So we'll talk a little bit about the university location, what we offer course-wise, course fees, some popular courses, because I think one of the problems we have as universities is that we have so many subjects and courses that it's very difficult to focus on all of them. So I'm going to focus on a few of them in particular that are quite popular. Entry requirements, very common question, how we support students, a little bit about Wales as well, what Wales looks like, and we'll have some next steps at the end. So this is our campus here. This is called the Treforest Campus. Now, Cardiff is the capital of Wales, and we have 3 campuses. Vast majority of you, if you apply to this university, will study here. It's about 10 minutes outside the capital city. We also have a campus down the road in another city called Newport. Unless you study in education or you're studying hotel and hospitality management, you're unlikely to be here. And we also happen to have one in the capital city as well. This is the Cardiff campus here. Just to give you some perspective, I'm just going to go on Google a second and just show you one thing. So here we go. This is a map of the UK here. So here's Wales down by here, and I'm sure you're familiar with Wales. We're 2 hours from London. And there we go, there's the capital of Wales there, Cardiff. Cardiff is about 20 minutes from Bristol. That campus I mentioned just then, the one with hotel and hospitality management and education, that's called Newport, so it's just down the road. And then you've got the main campus, which is called Treforest, is by here. So all the campuses are very close together, 1, 2, and 3. And we're about 40 minutes from Bristol, which is one of the major cities in England by here. And we're about 2 hours from London. If you're looking to travel up to Manchester, we're about 3 hours. So we're in a really good location in the UK, in between some of the biggest cities. You're going to go and visit, and it's because one of the things we do find with students is they study with us, and it doesn't matter where you study in the UK, you do want to see parts of the UK. It's so easy to get around. I'm just going to ask George if you could just share your screen and just with us a quick video I'd like to share with you just to get started.
Sorry, Joe, I'm just loading it.
No worries at all. But this is a 2-minute video, which gives you a little bit of overview of our campuses. And from there, I can guide the presentation a little bit more focused. But any questions that come up along the way, we can address them, no problem. Here we go.
love Wales as a country. There's a lot you can learn when you come here, when you see the kind of culture that we have. I guess people don't really expect us to have a city like Cardiff that thrives as much as it does. There's a lot more going on in Wales than people originally see.
Coming to uni here, you make so many friends from all over, and they're your friends for life. Getting here is really easy. Coming from somewhere like London, you can just get on one train. You can then get the train up to Pontypridd, go straight to Newport. It's a 5-minute walk to get to the university from the train station in Newport.
With this new university, the University of South Wales, it's great. Like, you have so many resources.
Wales is a massive hub for sport. All of the streets are lined with red and people get really passionate about rugby, and when we win, it's an amazing place to be, it really is. People are very, very proud to be Welsh.
Peidiwch â phoeni, mae pawb yn siarad Saesneg, ond fedrwch chi ddysgu bach o Gymraeg fel dim problem.
Cardiff's just one of the coolest cities ever. It's just lush. You can just get on a train or a bus and you can go into the middle of nowhere, you can go rafting, you can go climbing up the mountains, or you can go west and you can go surfing. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything, really.
You can travel to the big cities like Cardiff, and you've got the great landscapes like the Gower, great beaches around here. The Brecon beacons are stunning as well. It's just a really good place to be.
One of my reasons to come to UK was to get a British degree, which is a stamp of quality. I found so many friends here from all over the world. Everyone's helpful, everyone's supportive, and after some time you just realize that you feel at home.
The University of South Wales to me is this life-changing experience which I wouldn't swap for anything.
We are here. Will you be?
Thank you, George. That's great. I'll just share my screen again now. Thank you for that. So yeah, that's a little bit of an overview just to give you a taster of the university in a 2-minute video there. So that's right. We got the Cardiff campus. This is kind of the capital city campus. I would probably say that about 10% of our international students are studying here. And we do get students from Zimbabwe and South Africa that do study here from time to time. But this is our creative industries campus. So if you're looking at a course in the likes of animation, design, drama, film and visual effects, film directing, journalism, this will be your campus here. The reason why we have this campus in the capital city centre is because around the corner there, you're right in the city centre with all the major UK businesses. And Cardiff being a capital city of the UK means there's a lot of business in the city centre. So there's a lot of film studios like the BBC, Channel 4, Radio Wales. There's a ton of media businesses and industries in the creative field around the corner. So this is why we have the campus here. I should actually mention, if you're looking to apply for any of these courses, these are slightly different to other courses like the business and engineering courses of this world, because these are creative courses and have a practical element to it. The only difference is when you apply is that you'll likely need a portfolio. Now, that's not saying we need extensive work experience, because I appreciate a lot of you will be looking at these options and it'll be something that you've got limited experience in. But it's just for us to get an idea of your passion and kind of any relatable work you've done so far to gauge your ability. That's all it is. There's nothing to worry about if you do get asked for a portfolio to apply for one of these courses. Cardiff's a great city. I studied in Cardiff years ago. I didn't study at South Wales, but I studied at one of the other universities in Cardiff. It's a great multicultural city. It's very affordable. It's very small for a capital city. You can get around from the shopping centres back to your house or wherever you're living in your private accommodation very, very quickly. And you don't necessarily need to rely on transport. You don't necessarily need a car. You don't need there's a good train network in Wales. There's a good bus network in Wales, but it's not absolutely essential to pay for any of these. You can walk pretty much anywhere you want to go. Big sport in the city. You know, we have a big rugby team that's come up against South Africa over the years, many a time. And we also have one of the homes of cricket in the UK. So we've got Sophia Gardens. It's called the Swalek Stadium now. We've played Zimbabwe and South Africa there many times over the years. The English cricket team, I should say, because it's the English and Welsh cricket board. So we kind of have our teams together. And yeah, only 2 hours from London. I mean, that's quite a nice FYI. We know many students in the overseas want to study in London, but it's extremely expensive. It's roughly twice the cost of studying in Cardiff, twice the living cost wise. Your rent, your food costs, your transport costs are likely to be twice as much. But it's great to be only 2 hours away because you can go there for your day trips every now and then. This is the main campus though. This is where 90% of our international students study. So this is called Treforest and it's in a place called Pontypridd. So I think this presentation can be a little bit confusing sometimes when you see me talk about Treforest and then Pontypridd comes up. Pontypridd is the name of the town. Treforest is the name of this little area basically. So you've got all these student accommodation up by there. You've got the student union, the gym, you've got all the student housing in the top right-hand corner by here. And you've got all the lecture halls. So you've got the business school, the law school by here. Up by here is the engineering and aerospace school. You've got the computing school here, etc. It's a big camp. It's what we call a kind of, one of the, some universities in the UK, you live quite a distance away from your campus, but this is an on-campus university. You live either up here or over here. If you wanted to, you could live down the road in the capital in Cardiff. I'd say roughly 20 to 30% of our students choose to do that, but most students want to live a short walk from their lecture halls. On this campus, we offer pretty much everything: accounting, business, chiropractic, computing engineering, law, public health, all of our sports programs. We don't offer programs like medicine or dentistry or optometry, but apart from that, we offer pretty much everything on this campus. South Wales, as mentioned in that video, we're a large university, roughly about 25,000 students, which is a lot, one of the biggest in the UK. I think we're in the top 10 largest in the UK. We have February and September start dates. So if you're looking to start your studies soon, you don't want to wait until September. Well, it's good news because we do have intakes once every 6 months. In comparison to some universities, we're a careers-focused university. There are some universities in the UK, especially the Russell groups, that are associated with research. And there's nothing wrong with that. And don't get me wrong, we do our own research ourselves, but there is a growing group of universities now that are specifically focused on outcomes. They're focused on linking you into the economy after your degree. And that's what we're like. It's ultimately, you go to university to invest in yourself, get a degree, build up your skills, build your network, so you're able to go into a good job and sail into a really successful career. And that's essentially what we're focused on, is getting you the best return on your investment, economic investment, but also your social investment coming halfway across the world. A lot of our programs, because of that, have accreditations and work placements built in. And I'll go on a little bit about this in a second now, to do with scholarships and cost of living. We are quite well known for being an affordable university, as well as one of the biggest in the UK. This, I think, needs mentioning too. USW Sport. We're one of only 3 universities in the UK to have a 4G arena like this on our campus. This was built a couple of years ago. So it's a 4G pitch built inside, almost like a mini stadium. We are one of the leading universities for sport in the UK. If you want to do a sports programs, we have programs in exercise science, football coaching, football development, rugby coaching. We've actually got a few students from South Africa this year doing rugby coaching with us. We are a leading university for sport, but I should mention that just because you don't need to do a sports course to access the sports facilities, you're able to join the university football or squash team or rugby team, access these facilities no matter what course you are doing. And we've got our gym here as well. We had the South African rugby team in here just before COVID, lifting some of these very, very heavy weights. In terms of cost, this is something I should mention to you. So in 2019, the Natwest Student Living Index, Natwest being a major UK bank, announced that Cardiff is the most affordable city in the UK to study in. So how does that affect you? It doesn't really matter in regards to your tuition fees, which I'll go on about in a second now. It's more to do with the cost of your living, cost of your bills, cost of your flat or the house you're living in, cost of food, cost of transport. If you go to somewhere like London, which is a fantastic place to go and study and live, you're roughly looking at twice the cost. So if you're looking at paying £300 rent for an average flat or house in Cardiff, realistically, you're probably looking at least 700 or 800 in London. It can even be 3 or 4. It can even be 3 times as much. Some students are willing to pay that. Some students are not. And that's just, and we do tend to see that the cost of living in London is probably the biggest hindrance to students going to live in London, because it's almost like a city with its own kind of economy in the UK. London is unlike anywhere in the UK. And just before I get onto the courses here, I just want to mention that every student who studies with us from Africa gets a 2,500 scholarship guaranteed with their offer letter. So you'll get this no matter what, undergraduate, MBA, PhD, Masters, no matter what you're going for, you will get this built in to your course fee. So they're the fees here. So you're looking at undergraduate being about 13,500, but you can take 2,500 off that. So you're looking at about 11,000. And similar thing for this is the business undergrads, the computer engineering and education ones, the fee's £300 more, but you do get the 2,500. And here we go, same principle then for the master's degrees here. You'll always get this, pardon me, guaranteed with your offer letter. If you don't get it on your offer letter, let me know, because it should be added automatically. Bear with me. So just want to go across some of the most popular courses we're finding at the moment at the university. So of course we've got, I know many of the people here today will be looking for undergraduate provision in particular. We have quite a lot of business top-ups across the university. So if you've got a HND background, you're able to go for that into third year. We have many business management degrees at the university, in particular ones in international logistics and supply chain management. That tends to be a really good return on investment degree, because it tends to be an industry that really is lacking specialists at the moment, particularly in Europe, but also across the world in general. We're seeing lots of students go to university and doing business management degrees, which is great, but we're also seeing a lack of students specializing in this area to begin with. But we have degrees across the spectrum. I know I've got masters mentioned here, but project management, digital marketing, management, accounting, investment management, right across the university. Engineering school, again, these might say masters here, but you've got these programs at undergraduate as well. You've got your aeronautical engineering, your aircraft engineering, aviation, civil, automotive, mechanical. We're one of the leading universities in the UK for engineering, in particular, aeronautical and aircraft engineering. Before the pandemic hit, we had a campus in Dubai dedicated purely to aircraft engineering, and we were training a lot of the pilots that you will see from Dubai Airport, the biggest transit hub in the world. I think the industry is recovering a little bit now, the aircraft industry after COVID. So I think if you're probably doing a degree in aircraft or aeronautical engineering a year or two ago, you'd probably be worrying a little bit with the industry losing a lot of jobs. But it's anticipated there'll be a big rebuild in the next 2 or 3 years now. And again, a very, very specialist degree. You know, if you want to enter this profession, you'll need a background in it. In terms of the health school, we have a lot of programs in health. So like health and social care management, we have public health, education, community health and well-being. We have psychology courses. Again, being a return on investment university, you will see a lot of these courses come with built-in placements, and many of them coming with accreditations as well. And the other thing is the creative industry school. I think it's most likely that most students here today are probably not looking at this avenue, but we are a leading UK university for film, journalism and media courses. We have courses in film, visual effects, animation, computer games development, we have visual effects and sound editing courses as well. We've right across the kind of portfolio. We have a lot of specialist courses. And one of the questions we often get is, do I need to do a broad degree or do I need to do something very specialist? And I think it ultimately depends on what you want to do for a career. I think a lot of people will do an undergraduate, which is quite broad, and then they might look to do a master's later on that's a bit more specific, because masters tend to be more specialist courses. But what we find is that if you've got a passion and an idea for your career early on, specializing as early as possible is an advantage. Obviously, if you then change your mind, you might have, you've got more of a specialist degree that you maybe haven't got as much flexibility with using a specialist degree if you want to then change your career. And I suppose that's the benefit of having a broad degree. So if you're looking in the business world, for example, logistics and supply chain might be a really good specialist undergrad degree. But equally, if you change your mind on that, it's so specialist that you could obviously tweak it, and that will still be needed in industry. But if you've done a business management degree, you've got a lot more flexibility in terms of your approach to industry. We've also got some other courses. Again, these all come with most of these courses do have undergraduate alternatives as well. So we have data science courses, sports coaching and performance, exercise science. We have artificial intelligence. This is a new course. We're only one of a handful of universities to introduce this at undergraduate and masters at the moment. This is a course I think will take over in the next few years. So over the last 10 or 15 years, computer science has been one of the big courses at every UK university. You know, there's a huge demand for computer scientists in sector across the world, especially in the Western world. But we're seeing that now tail off a little bit. We know robotics and AI is here to stay. It's already $1 trillion industry. So universities are implementing programs like this now because they understand there's going to be a lot of companies not necessarily looking for computer scientists anymore. They want specific backgrounds in artificial intelligence. So we're starting to see that across the UK now. One thing I just want to go back to my Google Chrome a second. One thing I do want to mention before I go on is this is the website here. If you go to courses at the top, let me click that button by there. One thing I want to mention, because I know, especially from South Africa and Zimbabwe, there's always a huge interest in sports courses, and I realized it wasn't covered in there just then. If you go on the site here, you will see the availability of sports courses at undergraduate in particular. So football and rugby coaching, sport and exercise science, strength and conditioning, even a sports journalism course. This should maybe be in the media category, but yes, we do a specific sports journalism course. And we do top-ups as well if you've got a HND and you're looking to come into the third year entry. But there really is kind of a diverse range of courses specifically within the sports school. But this is the place to go in general if you're looking for your specific course, because being 500, I can highlight some, but there really is so many. So if you were looking at just the business courses, for example, this is a bit of a messy list, I have to admit. You start off with undergraduate, and there's some top-ups here as well. If you're not doing a HND, a diploma, don't worry about top-up. That means third year entry. So you'll be looking at the ones that have not got the brackets. So you've got foundation if you're not able to go into first year entry, but you've got your generic year one degree programs here like business management. You've got hotel and hospitality management, events management, international business and management, logistics and supply chain, and up by here as well, you'll find all our courses that are quite popular in Southern Africa in accounting and finance, forensic auditing and accounting. But this is the best place to go. So if you're looking for your course, go on here and bear in mind it'll always start with undergraduate first, and then you will go into postgraduate down below. And I think it's one thing, especially if you are looking for your undergrad, it's sometimes quite helpful to look at the master's options, even if you're 4 years away from that, because it gives you a pathway. I think more and more students now are going to university with a master's already in mind, even though it might be 4 years away. So if you're looking at doing a film undergrad, for example, it might be worth looking at with these masters down here in film directing and going, right, I'm going to do an undergrad in film with the idea that I will eventually look to do one of these MA film degrees here. These are what we call pathways. So there's an MA film degree, but there's obviously pathways available in cinematography, directing, documentary, etc. While I'm on here as well, one other thing I just want to mention is when you're on the international website here, so you go to southwales.ac.uk and you click international at the top, you can obviously apply online here. But one of the things I would mention is there's two areas here that are really important. One of them is this one here, Jan, February 20 courses. So we've got an intake coming up now. So if you're looking to come soon and you were looking to discuss your options with Global, you can see on here that we've got options from the South Wales Business School in January. Most of these courses will be master's courses. So you've got the engineering management, MBAs of this world. But if you're looking specifically at undergraduate, we do have business and management, human resource management, marketing management, etc. Quite a few courses on offer in our January intake. We've also got some in the life sciences school, so like football coaching and development, and also in the engineering school. These tend to be mainly master's degrees, but we do have a top-up degree in engineering and maintenance systems. The other thing I was going to show you while I was here is just a little bit about entry requirements. So if you go to your country or region, and let's say you are applying from Zimbabwe, go to Zimbabwe here. You'll have some information on the scholarship that's available to you, so 2,500. You'll have some testimonials from students who've studied in the past, just to get a feel for how they did at South Wales. But if you go down here to entry requirements, you will get an overview then of exactly what you need to apply to South Wales. So there's always going to be two criteria, academic and English. So with English, you traditionally need a GCSE, O-level or A-level, grade C in English or above. If you've got any of them, you've ticked the box for English. If you don't, you'll need to look at an IELTS. Across Southern Africa, we don't tend to see, from my experience, a huge amount of students with IELTS. It does tend to be that you can have one of these GCSE or O-level, grade C in English. That box is nicely ticked. In terms of academic entry requirements, if you followed the A-level curriculum, we'll consider you for undergraduate the same way as we'd consider a British student. Tends to be a mixture of B's and C's, but if you've missed out, we are quite flexible. Do not worry about that. Again, with the IB curriculum, the normal UCAS tariff is applied to that as well. And you can find the specific requirements for those on the course page. We'll also look at if you've got a diploma, we can consider you for advanced entry to year 2 or 3 of a degree as well. And if you're looking at master's level, master's tends to be a bit more simple. As long as you've got a 2-2 or above, we can take you for masters. And again, we're looking at English grade C at A-level or O-level or GCSE. If you have a different qualification to any of these mentioned, you can check with us and I can validate it before you apply to save you the time. Just in case it's not appropriate, I can double check for you, and so can the global team. But yeah, just go back to this now. So supporting students, this is really important. I think some universities, from my experience, this is an area some universities miss out on, but it's not just about bringing the student in and getting on with your course. We've got to make sure we're there for you socially throughout your course. So we have a health centre on campus, a chaplaincy, we have a wellbeing service, a disability and dyslexia service, and a student mentoring service. All of this is for you free of charge to ensure you have the easiest time studying at South Wales. And outside your academic kind of career, we're there to support you socially. We also have a student money system as well. So if you don't like carrying money around, you can pay for everything on your university app, nice and easy. When you arrive in the UK, we have 2 airports that students traditionally arrive to, Cardiff or London. Now, Cardiff is a small airport. It's about 30 minutes from campus. If you arrive there, if you fill in a form in advance, we'll pick you up in a taxi and we'll take you straight to your accommodation. But I would say most students from Africa tend to arrive in London, because if, let's say, you're flying from South Africa, Johannesburg, there's no direct flight to Cardiff. You'd probably have to fly to France, probably Charles de Gaulle in Paris, or you have to fly to Amsterdam and you have to get another flight from there. So sometimes students would prefer to go to London Heathrow and take the 3-hour bus to campus then. I know being on a bus for 3 hours is not the most exciting thing in the world, but it's a bit easier flight-wise. I just wanted to mention this as well. This is the What Uni Awards from last year. University ranked 26th in the UK for student satisfaction and 10th for postgraduate study in the UK. I think one of the reasons that we ranked pretty well for this is because we're a very career-focused and supportive university. These are some of our partners here. So many of our courses come with work placements built in. So if you're looking on your course page, you might find a few of these partners on there. There's about 200 partners across the university, but these are some of the names I thought I'd pick out because you might recognize them. Part-time work in the UK, this applies to every university. So it's not just South Wales, but if you're wondering about working whilst at the university, number one thing is you've got to retain a work-life balance, a work-study balance. Very important because your study will always come first. But if you want to earn a bit of money on the side and get a bit of experience, that's great. 20 hours a week is the maximum during term time, though outside of term time, so vacation time, it is unlimited. It's a good way to enhance your CV, and we've been having job fairs, including throughout the pandemic as well. We've been having them online so you can meet the right people to talk to. We also have some really good relationships with organizations like Student Circus, which is a job and internship platform. We pay for this every year to ensure that international students can access this. So if you're looking for a work placement, this is a platform that's exclusive to a certain number of universities in the UK. And you can apply for jobs with companies like Amazon, L'Oreal, and General Electric. A lot of the big names are on here. This is also something I wanted to mention briefly. So we're seeing a lot more students come to the UK in the last 6 months or so. And one of the reasons is because of the post-study work visa. We're finding that outside of countries like India and Nigeria, there doesn't tend to be a huge amount of understanding of the post-study work visa. I don't think it's been promoted that well by the UK government to many parts of the world. So if you come to the UK at the moment, if you'd have come to the UK last year, I should say, you would have completed your degree and then you'd have about 3 months left and you'd have to return to your home country. Whereas on the 1st of July this year, post-study work visa was announced. And what it meant was that once you finish your degree, you will be able to apply to stay in the UK for 2 years and work and really add kind of a rich portfolio to your CV of work experience. It does require a new visa application, which you'll have to apply for after your course, and it will have a health surcharge and a visa fee included. But this is just something to be aware of. If you do come to the UK now, you do have the ability to stay in the UK after your course, which is a great thing. Just to move back to the university, I'll finish up briefly now. Accommodation, this is also very important. It's kind of one of the most common questions. Where am I going to live? What's the quality of the accommodation at the university? So I mentioned earlier, the cost of living is actually very low. Cardiff is the most affordable region in the UK, and we have both on-campus and off-campus accommodation. Off-campus does tend to be a bit cheaper. It always will be. You know, living in a house with some flatmates, that will always be cheaper than living on university accommodation. But the university accommodation is still very affordable because of the unique costs of the region of Wales. It's a very affordable place to live. Accommodation is always modern, clean and safe. And we offer you the option of either. Whether you want to live in a flat or a house with flatmates, or you want to live on university grounds, it's honestly up to you. The major thing is the fact that there's a bit of cost difference. The university accommodation is more modern, and because of that, there is a higher cost with it. This is some of the on-campus accommodation here. So for example, you'll have a double bed and a desk. You'll share a kitchen like this with 3 or 4 other students, and you'll have your own bathroom. And this is what it looks like from outside there, just a very modern building. You'll see many of these across the UK. I wouldn't say this is a spectacular piece of architecture. You'll see this everywhere. And this is a typical student house. Again, you will see houses like this all around the UK. Tend to be old terraced houses that are very modern inside, and students live in these across the UK. The benefit is, cheaper, walking distance from campus, and especially if you've met some friends, because students tend to live, if you're doing undergraduate, students tend to live on campus for year 1, and they might move then to a house in year 2 and 3 once they've met some really good friends. And it's a great way to live. I just want to finish now with some photos of Welsh landscapes. I think Wales is known as one of the most beautiful countries in the world to live in. This is, I think, the Brecon Beacon. So we've got a lot of mountains here in Wales and a lot of beautiful landscapes outside of the city centre. This is the Millennium Stadium, known as the Principality Stadium these days. Been some great games of rugby and football here over the years. This is about a 5 to 10 minute walk from our Cardiff campus. A lot of historical buildings in the capital city as well. A lot of buildings that are called listed buildings in the UK that have been around for hundreds of years. This is Caerphilly Castle. It's about 10 minutes from campus, the Treforest Campus, that is, the main campus. As you might have seen in that video earlier, Wales has more castles per square mile than anywhere in the world. A very, very strange statistic, but it is true. And I believe this is the second biggest castle in Europe. And you know what, it's not going to change your life seeing that castle, but it's always worth a day visit. And it is very, very big, as you can tell. Lots of shopping centres. This is called St David's. This is in the capital city of Cardiff. If you like your shopping, Cardiff is a very popular city for shopping in the UK. We get lots of people from Bristol and Devon and other parts of England coming to Cardiff for the day to shop. It's a really popular shopping destination. Overall, very friendly city, very diverse, big sports city, as I said. And this is the Welsh Millennium Centre here. This is a theatre and arts kind of facility. Probably one of the most iconic pieces of architecture in the UK. This was built about 15 years ago. Again, it's in the Cardiff city centre. You will come across this when you study here, and I'm sure you'll get a photo of it if you study here, because it is absolutely beautiful. But yeah, that's it for me. I just want to wrap up now in case there's any questions. I think just some final thoughts. You know, Cardiff is a very popular city. You've got University of South Wales, you've got Cardiff University, and you've got Cardiff Metropolitan. 3 big universities are based in this city. So there's a lot of students studying here. I mean, probably best part of 100,000 students just from those 3 universities alone. And many of those are international students. Every student from Southern Africa will get a 2,500 scholarship. As long as you get an offer, it'll be included. 500 plus courses overall across all our faculties. It's a nice combination of specialist courses that are very specific, as well as traditional courses that are a little bit broader. But as I said earlier, there's advantages and disadvantages to doing a specialist course versus a traditional course, and there's no right or wrong answer. But there's my email address there, my phone number in case you want to WhatsApp instead. And yeah, I'll hand back to George now. But thank you, guys.
Joe, that was brilliant. And as always, you made my life difficult to come up with certain questions. You vividly explained a lot of not just the culture, but the landscape that's around. It's something that people just aren't aware of, especially when you come from South Africa and Zimbabwe, where you're used to beautiful landscapes and the outdoors. The one thing that I've been learning in my own research of the University of South Wales is the mountains. It's incredible. You never would have thought that. You just think of the UK and you think it's flat and cold and rainy. Are there lots of excursions for students to go out and see the mountain areas and the hillsides and that?
Yeah, I mean, we have something called the International Welcome Programme. That's like the first week. When you arrive in the UK before your course starts, Welcome Programme tends to integrate some of these visits to castles and mountains. It's kind of part of the cultural experience of joining. But even if you missed that week and you didn't attend it, it's such a small country. Wales is very small. You could drive 30 minutes down the road or get a train 30 minutes down the road, and you could go up one of these mountains with your friends on the weekend. It's a very, very straightforward thing to do. And I think that's one of the reasons why Wales and Cardiff is a kind of very popular destination, because if you can see behind me, this is Cardiff Bay. So this is where the Millennium Centre is that I showed just now. And this is 2-minute walk, about 5-minute walk from the city centre. But if you went about 20 minutes down the road on the train, you'd be near mountains. It's a very unusual place. You've kind of got the countryside and the capital city very, very close to one another. And it just gives you quite an interesting choice of things to do in your spare time.
Joe, one of the questions that we got from a couple of students who were registering for the webinar that we were discussing with was one student was interested in photography and wanted to find out how could they progress their studies within photography. Is there an opportunity, or should they pivot into one of the creative degrees, focus in that route? Did you have any suggestions or advice for that student?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. My advice would be photography at undergraduate tends to be a very, very heavy British degree. You don't have many international students doing it. And I think one of the reasons why is because photography, those who go on to make a career in photography, it's not a necessity to have a degree in photography. That's just me being perfectly honest. A lot of photographers will have degrees in other subjects or no degrees at all. It tends to be a very individualistic career. So my advice would be it's sometimes good to have a background in something else. I mean, we do have a photography degree, and that will certainly upskill someone's skills within that kind of profession. But if you're not certain on a photography career, I would advise looking at other creative degrees, especially, you know, the likes of film, journalism, media, VFX, games, animation. There's a ton of industries there that pay really, really well, that if you do a specialist degree in, you're a shoo-in for a job in those industries.
It was great to see the synergy that you mentioned during your presentation about finding your passion with what you want to study when you were comparing the undergrad with the master's or the postgrad. And it was interesting to see that, because when you listen to global education counselors, they always discuss about to the students is find what you're passionate about. Don't look first at the rankings. Don't find the you want. First, find the course that you'd like to do, that you're going to spend your life doing it, or your working life in that area. When you're counseling students, do you see a lot of students now with post-COVID world, or this coming towards the end of this COVID world that we live in? Are you seeing more students know what they want, or are you seeing a lot more students having more of a general sort of idea of where they'd like to go?
I think you're right. I think we're seeing students now being more pragmatic than ever. They're looking at the economy during the COVID era, and they're looking where the jobs are going, and they're looking at the industries where the jobs have fallen. And I think students have to be quite pragmatic about that. When I went to university years ago, I chose a course without really looking at the industry, and I got a year into my degree and thought, blimey, I'm going into an industry where there's not actually many jobs. So I think you do have to be very pragmatic, and you have to see this as an investment economically. I think international students are much better at that than British students. British students don't tend to think about it as pragmatically, but even with international students now, we're seeing them weighing up the options, doing their analysis, doing their research, going, right, as I mentioned earlier, computer science, very popular degree, but do I go for artificial intelligence? Because that's where the trends are heading. That's where the skills are needed. And I do think it's very important to be pragmatic and do your research.
In terms of the faculties and the colleges that University of South Wales has, is the approach to have a hybrid model now with this post-pandemic world? Are you still going to go back to sort of the big auditorium lectures and those types of things? If you could give a bit of a description of the learning style at South Wales.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we're returning to more of a face-to-face way of teaching this year. I think there's some lessons to be learned from the COVID era, and that things can be done online. And there's a couple of universities in the UK that are doing 100% face-to-face. Ours is more blended at the moment, but there will be a lot of face-to-face on all courses last year. It is likely in the future that you might see some more online delivery, but I think our feedback from students is that doing a course online, you're not getting the same experience as you would face to face, not only with your lecturers, but with your fellow students, brainstorming, learning from students from across the world who have joined from many different countries. You learn different things culturally. And I personally think that while online has offered some great opportunities, I think we are seeing, wow, it was so important for other reasons to have face to face, because students learn from one another, not just the academics, in so many different ways. And I'd be surprised if universities go around to the virtual route too much, because I think we're seeing many of the advantages of face-to-face.
Yeah, no, we can definitely appreciate that. If you look at these virtual expos that we run here at Global, we do events where we go and we visit schools, we bring the likes of yourselves for a tour of visiting the country. But with the COVID world, these webinars, which have been great to get yourselves in front of students and then reshare that in the recording. And always think of students who go to class and they get their lectures and their researchers, they might be busy. What can they do now? They can catch up on their lecture in their own time. And that's kind of the style of these webinars that we want to promote into South Africa and Zimbabwe, rather than doing a fair where you're going to sit in the fair for 6 or 7 hours and maybe meet a couple of people online. So we definitely see the same trend of that blend, even in the recruitment stage or the counseling stage of students. And one of the questions that I got recently from a parent was, with visa restrictions, the pandemic restrictions, travel restrictions, how accessible is visa sort of, if a student was graduating at the University of South Wales and they got a job and they wanted to stay, do they have support at the university to help them and guide them in that journey?
Yeah, you're right. That's a good question. So, for example, if you're at the university at the moment and you've just finished your degree, you've now got post-study work that you need to apply for. And I spoke to 2 students yesterday from Bangladesh on campus, and they were granted their visa in 2 days, which I was really surprised at because that's very, very quick. So they don't have jobs lined up. They just want to have the 2-year visa to go and look for jobs. So I think that's the major difference, is that number one, we've got an international immigration team that can help you apply for free on campus, nice and easy. Number two, the major difference between now and a year ago is if you finished your course a year ago, you've got 3 months. You've got 3 months to find an employer who will sponsor you, or you've got to go back home. And 99% of people went back home because finding an employer who will sponsor you is very, very difficult because they have to pay thousands of pounds for a visa. Whereas now you go and apply for the post-study work, you pay a small fee, you get your 2-year visa, and you can take your time looking for work. And I think that's a major advantage for students at the moment who really want to bulk out their CV in the UK.
I definitely want to just reiterate what you just said there about that immigration support by the university. For somebody myself who's traveled around the world and studied in various locations as well, that's been one of the sticking points, is to be able to find good support and good service where you don't have to pay an arm and a leg after already paying 2 arms and a leg to study. So it definitely is much appreciated, Joan. It's good to know that. One of the other questions that we've been getting a lot of interest from in terms of support levels, and your slide where it was really well presented with the various levels of support from wellness to the health services to the dyslexia as well, in terms of different reading abilities and that. Was that a big focus before COVID, or did COVID kind of push the university into that?
That's a really good question. We had all of those in place pre-COVID, and I think there were other universities who've had to really pick up their act during COVID, where it's been a hard time mentally, not just for students, but for everybody, for staff at the university. But we've been very focused on this for a number of years. And as I say, it's kind of linked into the fact that we're one of these career-focused universities. We're not a research, we do our research, but we're not a research-intensive university. And there's always been a good student support system and a career-focused mentality to the university. And there's been a lot of investment into this over the years. And I think it's one of the things I hear on campus, and I've been to many universities over the years, and the one thing I hear at South Wales more than any university is that we're quite a family-orientated university. You do tend to get to know the other students and the staff better than you would in other universities, especially the big Russell groups. They have many advantages studying at a Russell group, but sometimes students do find themselves a little bit lost and find themselves, I know I've heard the term where students said to me, I feel like just a number to the university, whereas it's quite a family-orientated university, South Wales, in a nice way.
No, definitely. And it's for South African Zimbabweans where it's a big family to go and study overseas, not just the student that makes that decision. I think that's one point that I'd like to stick out in this presentation as well, with all the numerous other points that you've mentioned that are really valuable, is that family feel and that safety assurance that you're in a place that cares about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to end the presentation there, but I've just gotten a question come through here, and it's about the matric equivalency with results or prerequisites that you would look for. I know it's a lot of courses that you guys offer. Do you have a brief idea of the level of scores that South Africans should be aware of?
Yeah, I understand that South African qualifications are a little bit more complex than the ones you'd see in Zimbabwe, for example. Bear with me a second. It's a really good question. I have to be honest, I think South Africa is the only country in Africa whereby I think, for me, if I was talking about Nigeria or Zimbabwe, I could lay it out very easily, and it can be complicated. I can appreciate that. So typically, if you've got a senior certificate with matriculation, it's 3 B grades and 2 C grades at higher level, with a C grade or higher in English. That's traditionally what we're looking for. we get queries all the time where you're looking on our website and it's not perfectly clear what you've got, something slightly different. My gut instinct for you would be check it with Global in first kind of instinct, then go to us if needed. But what I do want to stress is, if you don't feel comfortable applying because you don't think we've addressed your qualification on the website, check with us first. If you got good grades, you should be fine anyway, but we can double check it for you. But I think that's a good point. I appreciate the South African qualifications can be quite difficult on university websites.
I think that's probably a great segue to put our contact details up here. And just to reiterate what you just said there, the global counselors, we're really listening in on this. Global's built on helping students find the best information for you well in advance before you get to your application level. And that's why we want to get the likes of Joe in front of you to hear these types of information and valuable content that you won't necessarily find on the website or difficult to find online. So please do reach out to us so we can get you those one-to-one conversations, whether it's with one of our education counselors or with Joe as well. And from all of us at Global, Joe, thank you very much. I do appreciate your presentation. I know the students were pretty quiet on this one, but I think that's due to your presentation. So
no, thank you, George. And I just want to say on behalf of students who are here and those who might see this recording later on, that Global are absolutely your best bet. Please do use them. It's one thing I stress over and over again. At the university, we get a small number of refusals every year across Africa, and 99% of the time it's because the student either has not used an agent, or B, they've used an agent and not worked with them closely. And we've never had any issues whatsoever with Global. I know when we send our CASs out, a CAS is what you get to apply for your visa once you've paid a deposit. Once we send them out to Global, there's no need for me to do anything because I know it's a super safe, secure thing. But there are many agents across Africa who don't have the same expertise as Global. And even if you do work with other agents closely, you're not going to get the same level of service. So please, if you apply with Global, you're in super, super safe hands. I can say that, as safe as you can possibly get. But thank you, George, for the presentation opportunity. It's good. It was good to link up with Global again and speak to students. Thank you.
And hopefully we can both see each other in South Africa and meet students directly. Myself here in Wales would love to catch up in South Africa and Zimbabwe.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully now next year, universities are anticipating to maybe be traveling again from February, March. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Brilliant. Thank you everybody for joining us. Keep safe, South Africa. Enjoy Heritage Day, and Zimbabwe. We'll see you at the next webinar. Good night, everybody.
Take care, guys.